Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Health Go Live webinar series. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at MediSafe. Just a few housekeeping items to go over. We'd like to remind everyone that the Q&A feature will be available, so feel free to send in those questions for the panelists throughout the discussion. Stay on after the webinar for an interactive and unique virtual mind reading show with mentalist Mark Tolan. With that, I'll throw it over to our moderator who joins us from Accenture, Alex.
Thank you, Health Team. A warm welcome to everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to all our attendees and panel participants. I'm looking forward today to hopefully a very engaged discussion. We're going to be discussing the late but definitive arrival of digital in pharma, in particular in supporting patients and supporting patients' lives. I call it late because I think it's fair to say if we compare how much time it took in other industries, be it banking, retail, consumer electronics, for digital to take center stage, I think it has taken considerably longer for life sciences as well as the broader health domain for digital to take a pivotal central role. Before we start the discussion, I would like to do a quick introduction, our panelists as well as myself. I'll start with a couple of quick words on myself. My name is Alex Yanakis. I'm leading Global Digital Health Center of Excellence of Accenture, located in Basel, Switzerland. I have spent most of my career, since 2004, practically in the digital health domain. First, I had my own digital health medical device company in the cardiovascular domain. And since 5 years, I've been working in the areas of oncology, diabetes, autoimmune and neurological diseases, together with customers and clients from life sciences, medical devices, healthcare providers, or regulators. At this point, I would like to introduce our three panel members, starting maybe from Amy West from Novo Nordisk. Amy.
Hi, and thank you. I'm Amy West, and I've been in the pharma industry for over 25 years, primarily in the commercial space across a number of categories, including diabetes and metabolic disease, neuroscience, men's and women's health, cardiovascular, all with a very heavy focus on customer engagement and experience. I currently lead the Novo Nordisk US digital health strategy. My team and I are focused on identifying opportunities to apply innovative digital technologies to enable a more holistic, customer-centric approach to engaging and supporting people with chronic health challenges. I'd also like to add personally that I am really passionate about the patient side of the healthcare equation. I'm a patient myself, along with family and friends, and I strongly believe that getting access to pharmacotherapies and traditional health interventions is critical, but medication alone just isn't enough. And that's why I love working in the digital health and tech space, because it's an area of innovation that can enable our ability to go beyond the pill and deliver experiences that positively influence people's understanding, behavior, and their ability to engage and take control of their health and wellness on their own in a very personalized way. So through the data that we collect with the technology, we can understand patients as people first and use those insights to deliver more individualized and relevant solutions along with the medication that's so important to achieve those health outcomes and the quality of life that we all want. So thank you, and I'm really happy to be here today.
Thank you, Amy. And although we're not physical together, one can feel your passion even though we are connected through a screen. Thank you, Amy. Scott Bradley from Novartis. Would you like to go next, Scott?
Sure. Thanks, Alex. And it's really great to be here today with my colleagues here. My name is Scott Bradley. In my 20+ year career, I've been in primarily in software and technology development, spending a lot of time in my career in product management, product strategy. I've been in a number of different organizations, from medical device to clinical research organizations, spending a lot of time with patient-reported outcomes, building technology for patient and provider-facing clinical studies, including patient engagement and satisfaction within the pharma R&D space. I'm also a former startup guy, having been a founding management team member of a startup, a venture-backed startup, and also as a co-founder. And just earlier this year, I joined Novartis within the U.S. Pharma Patient and Specialty Services Organization, joining during the pandemic, which was quite an experience of itself. So I feel like I've experienced firsthand what a lot of us have been in ways that a lot of us have been impacted by the pandemic. This full virtual experience, and I lead a team that is cross portfolio, comprised of several centers of excellence, and really glad to be here today to share my thoughts.
Thanks, Scott, and great to have another entrepreneur in the team. We should exchange notes. And Omri Sor from MediSafe. Hi, Omri.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much, Alex, Amy, and Scott for joining us today. Appreciate that a lot, and sharing your perspectives. Thank you, HLTH. My name is Omri. I'm the co-founder and CEO at MediSafe. We've started the company about 7 years ago after my father, who's diabetic and hypertensive, accidentally overdosed on his medications. And fortunately, he's fine today. He's MediSafe user #1. But that's what really drove us into action. Today, 7 million patients and 15 billion data points on how patients manage their medications. We're very excited to use all the knowledge and the data that we've gathered throughout the years to design and deploy digital companions with our partners across the entire healthcare continuum, and specifically with our friends on the pharma side to support patients in their medication journey. So I'm very excited for today's conversation, and I'm looking forward to learning more about how you guys think about it. So thank you.
Thank you, Omri. Looking forward to hearing more insights about these end-to-end transformation programs from you. Thanks, Omri. I said in my introductory speak that it has been a late but definitive arrival. Why did I use the word definitive arrival of digital in pharma? The reason has been a very boring answer or expected answer. It has actually been COVID. We all felt it, we all experienced it to different degrees in the different place of the world where we are located. But it's hard to say someone has not been affected, even the healthy people. Accessing services for occasional things that might happen to us have become more complicated. And I have seen with my own eyes customers, people, if we're talking diabetes, who are using continuous blood glucose monitoring devices. Some of them have the advantage that you can use them for multiple weeks compared to others, but at the same time, they require a specialist to position it on your upper arm typically. But in most countries during the pandemic, it has not been possible to meet the medical professional who is able to do this positioning. So I've seen patients suffer from that. I've seen companies get their business disrupted in a negative way in that specific instance. So definitely COVID had a massive tectonic effect on our industry. What has been also very interesting is that what we observed that happened, so the shift in care delivery paradigms, in treatment paradigms and regimes. And recently Accenture did the big research in 47 countries with roughly 3,000 patients, I think 2,700 to be precise, from oncology, from cardiology, and from immunology. And the findings were really eye-opening. On the one hand, 50% of the participants said that they had to change treatment due to the impact of the COVID and the lack of access to care and to the specialists. So that's really a tremendous number if we think about 1 out of 2. At the same time, 1 out of 4 of the patients that participated in this research, they said that for the first time they started using digital health and digitally enabled solutions in order to stay connected, in order to be able to monitor themselves, in order to be able to adhere to what they're supposed to do, be it in the old regimes or if they change treatment to the new regime. And at the same time, 90% of the people who started using digital health solutions said that they will for sure continue using them even once the pandemic might one day be behind us, because they felt that the experience they had was actually at least as good, if not superior to what they had before they started using such tools. They felt more connected, they felt more safe, they felt it was a more personalized experience for them, that people could understand in more finer details, in more granularity, what they really need and what was best for them. Which brings us to the realization that having such offerings to be able to support patients and patients' lives and the other stakeholders that are supporting the patients has become almost a lifeline for pharma companies and the other providers in the industry who are supporting the patients. And this brings us to the start of this discussion today, and what we want to really look into and get your perspectives as experts from your different companies. To which point in this transformation do we feel we are? Have we reached the point of no return? and how do you perceive it from your individual vantage points from your organizations? So if I look at the first one, the first question I have for all three of you is, what changes do you feel need to happen within your individual organizations in order to come to the point that you feel you're sufficiently able to support patients in this new world? The changes both from an enablement point of view, but also from an operating model, market access channels. Really, the disruption goes along all the elements of the value chain. So maybe I'll start with Amy, as we did before.
Sure. I mean, I think it's really requiring us to take a hard look at how we've done things traditionally and where we need to go in the future. And to your point, I mean, that's going to require us to look at not only our core business, but how we organize around the business today and into the future. We really need to make sure fundamentally that we remain customer and value centric when we think about our approach to developing solutions for the market. And we have to make sure that whatever we are exploring to bring to the table is based on the core unmet needs or the pain points of our end users and those customers first. And in order, and making sure that as we build to that solution, that we're doing in a way that we can clearly make sure that it is going to deliver on that value for the customer. But then is it something that it can also be balanced with the business value as well? We have to do both things there, and that can be a challenge at times. And in the world of pharma, our core area of innovation is in the pharmacotherapy space. But when we think about digital and the companions to medication and how digital is being used to enhance medication utilization and a variety of different things that are going on there, we are not a technology company. So we do need to think about partnerships and co-creation with the technology experts that are already out there, and find ways that we can work together to create these synergies and bring scalable, viable, meaningful, and valuable solutions to our customers as quickly as possible. And by doing that, though, that's a very different space for the pharma manufacturers. We are used to building solutions that are, medications that are very exclusive. We're not used to kind of partnering with others to bring these things to the table. So that's, requires a different mindset. There's a different level of risk that we need to consider when we're talking about bringing forward these digital solutions to the table. The way you bring them to market, the way you test and develop them is very different than the traditional clinical R&D model. So again, trying to step into this digital space is requiring us to look at, our core business and how do we adjust for that, and how do we accommodate the need to bring these different channels and different solutions to the table in a way that's going to make sense for our end customers and our our business in general.
Thank you, Amy. Scott or Omri?
Yeah, that's Amy. Great comments. And I think if there's one thing that we learned from the COVID pandemic, it's that patient support programs are more important now than they ever have been. And they were important before this crisis happened, and now today there's an awful lot of unmet need. As you were saying, it's really important for us organizationally to be focused in on our customers, understand their needs, and be able to provide solutions, whether we directly as manufacturers can provide the therapeutic solution, or we need to partner, as you mentioned. Quickly, I wanted to talk a little bit about patient support programs in general. And I know that some of you joining on this call probably aren't directly familiar with patient support programs from the pharma perspective. But they are programs that are run by pharma quite often in the specialty pharmacy space, directly supporting the patient journey following a prescription. So helping to address the barriers to access that exist. COVID's just added more barriers to access, but but a statistic that was recently published showed that 41% of patients who receive a prescription for a specialty pharmacy product never even get to the first fill. Some of these barriers are financial in nature, and typically patient support programs they may not be exactly the same as a patient assistance program, which may address more of the financial needs and may be run by a nonprofit foundation. But the patient support programs help get patients through their benefits investigations, through prior authorizations that may be needed, clinical requirements that may be in place prior to therapy, and just getting access to the prescribed medication. So that in a nutshell is what a patient support program is. It's not providing medical advice. It's really just helping that patient journey, from prescription to therapy, and then helping them to continue successfully on therapy. Alex, your question about the organization and the transformation, it's really interesting. It's something that we've been thinking a lot about. From my perspective, as I mentioned in my introduction, I'm leading a cross-portfolio team. And so, one way to start addressing some of the challenges is to develop centers of excellence or small teams of experts that can help scale the needs and the expertise that you may have, instead of those being embedded in each program, really working across the multiple programs to make sure that there are best practices, that you have a more strategic view on how you're delivering and running those programs. So I think that's an important part of the equation.
If I could just jump in and add on to something you said, I think your explanation of patient support programs was a really good point, and really a good way to define things. Sometimes we take for granted that we know what that is because we kind of live and breathe that every day. But to add on to what you said, though, I think the traditional patient support program does start at the prescription and go from there. But I know in the chronic metabolic disease space, we are looking to really broaden support to get to that prevention space as well. And I think with digital, we have that opportunity to broaden the traditional approach that we've taken to that. Okay, you've been diagnosed, you've got a prescription, and now you need to learn and engage with these certain things. There's an opportunity now with people being more proactive with the technology that's out there, sensors, wearables. They're paying attention to their health and wellness on their own time, outside of potentially even being diagnosed with a disease. So these patient support platforms can be expanded now, and to really kind of encompass overall health and wellness. And I think it's a nice opportunity too, because again, digital, I think, really holds the promise to help the entire healthcare industry evolve from the sick care paradigm to the well care, the health and wellness care paradigm. And if we can do that right, we can also start to chip away at the challenges that we have with the expense of sick care. And what everybody's trying to get, our country, we're so strapped right now with the cost of health, healthcare overall. So again, I think if we can expand our notion around patient support programs or even healthcare support programs, there's a lot of opportunity to focus on the prevention space before we even get to the diagnosis and prescription space.
Absolutely. I can only second that. We've done extensive work in diabetes, for example, over the last 4 years with one of our partners. And diabetes is one of the prime examples, I would say, of also lifestyle-driven disease, especially if we're talking type 2. So I fully agree with you. The opportunity you have at the pre-diabetes or even healthy stage to delay the onset of the disease or even secondary conditions is really a big opportunity as well. That can only be enabled with patient support programs. Fully agree. Omri, something to add from your side?
Yeah, wonderful points here. I'm enjoying the discussion so much. So I think that it all starts with a vision. So who are we as a company, right? And if the current state of specialty, specifically in pharma in general, is that the focus is, or I would say that yesterday's state is that the focus is the medicine itself. That's what we manufacture. And the product that we have is a drug. The engagement that we have is that PSP, and they really touch the patient in a certain point in time. It's a PSL, patient support liaison, who's engaging with the patient at a certain point in time. And as a result of that, the support is a high touch that is typically being done over the phone, and then finally, the insights that we get are delayed and they're based on claims. Now take that all, fast forward that to where we are today and where the future should be. And what I hear from you, and I'm just reiterating a bit, is that the focus is on a healthier patient. And the product is no longer a product that is the drug, but it's really a full solution. And I heard both of you use the term solution. Historically, you would have talked to pharma companies that it was a product approach, and we're moving towards a solution. The solution could be a drug plus some kind of a digital companion and the patient support services around that. So it's kind of a full solution. The engagement is now all about the patient journey and how do we manage that even before the prescription and run them through the entire patient journey. The support, as we see that today at MediSafe, is becoming the integration between the high tech, which are the digital solution, and the high touch, which are those PSLs. And oh, by the way, you gather so much data in real time from the real world that all the insights are, the whole spectrum of insights is completely changing, both the cadence and the quantity of that. So I think this is a vision transformation that we're starting to see. I heard you both use the term unmet need. So I think that as a result of that, the business models are changing and will continue to change, right? You guys are, as manufacturers historically, are creating value by manufacturing the drugs. So now if we've made our work and we drove some prevention, then it actually impacts down the road our ability to create business. So the business models are changing, and digital is becoming far more strategic to the organization. So as a result of that, and that's my last point, is that it's driving people change and how organizations are changing, and what are the mindset of these people that are with us and that are working with us. From pure therapeutic people to sometimes adding more digital and more entrepreneurial folks into the mix. That's some of the changes that we're seeing. And funny enough, you saw these things change over time, surely and slowly but surely. And then I think that when COVID came, the pandemic really accelerated how organizations think about digital and how fast can we drive that change. So we're very excited for how things are shaping up.
Omni, you're touching a very big point called change management. In this transformation of the industry, it's going to be one of the major hurdles. I can confirm that working with many customers and different companies in the life science domain, it's one of the biggest difficulties in order to make sure the organization rallies behind, understands it, they don't get alienated by the new skills and capabilities, and they really endorse it as one of the, let's say, future paths going forward. That's very good point, Omni.
Thank you.
Which brings me to my next question, quite naturally, nicely. We talked a bit about organizational aspects, commercial aspects, but what I would like to ask your opinions, as both Scott and Amy understand, and of course you, Omri, as well, you are very much involved also from the technical, let's say, point of view. What are the core capabilities you see as a core into bringing this new type of service to life in a sustainable and efficient way? Because this is very important, right? If we're talking building a sustainable future around these new offerings. We're talking about data platforms, analytics, insights, security, of course, that comes with these new types of services. And do you see these things becoming core capabilities and core know-how of your organizations? I think it was Scott, if I'm not mistaken, you said earlier we are not the technology company, or maybe Amy, apologies if I don't remember correctly. So how do you see it from this point of view? Do you see them becoming core capabilities and know-how, or do you think it will be more partner and conquer in order to go forward?
Are you asking me? I'm sorry, me?
Anyone, I mean,
Yeah.
Scott, maybe you want to go first, doesn't matter.
So, I mean, so this digital transformation isn't going away. So you know, the quick, easy answer is yes. They need to be core capabilities for the organization, whether that is in the traditional sense that you build those core capabilities up within the existing construct of the business, or whether you create some type of partnership ecosystem. Depending on the approach you take, it's very possible that as a traditional pharmaceutical manufacturer, you can't do that as your current entity with the rules and regulations are around being a pharmaceutical manufacturer. It could require a spin-off type of entity or a different model for the organization in order to be able to actually deliver these innovative solutions that might sit outside the traditional pharmacotherapy model. So I think it's an exploration with most organizations right now as far as the pharmaceutical manufacturers go. I think we're all trying to figure this out, but I think we recognize that, again, digital's not going away. It isn't necessarily part of our core traditional DNA. So how do we build up that competency internally, but also how do we leverage the subject matter experts that sit outside the organization and create partners, co-creation, things of that nature to build up a network to create these new solutions or potentially new entities.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, Amy, you bring up a really good point about, you know, the balance between insourcing and outsourcing, and Alex, I thought you were going to put us a bit more on the spot to take sides. You know, but given that it's election season and that we have a presidential debate going on tonight, I would have to answer differently and say and say there are pros and cons to both, and you really do have to have a more nuanced approach. So I agree, Amy, with the way that you put it. There are certain core competencies that you need to build out, and you start seeing new roles. In fact, even my own role didn't exist here a year ago. And I'm very biased, right? I've been in software development for a long time. When I think of a problem, I want to start building out a software development team and begin with, you know, user experience design, and that's not always a core competency in pharma. And so we really can't do that alone. It will take a village to solve the problems that we're facing in the industry. And there are other barriers as well, Amy, as you described, just the regulatory and compliance type of barriers. But digital isn't going away. It's part of the patient experience. It's the expectation of our consumers who, you know, work with in the rest of their daily lives. They're more engaged than they are when they are on a therapy, drug therapy, for example. So I think that there is a combination, and there needs to be some expertise around digital health, around software development, around data and data management. There also needs to be a network of expertise and innovators that you're working with.
Makes a lot of sense, Scott, and this is what we're also observing with most of our clients, that this is the hybrid, let's say, approach. Certain things you decide to do in-house, but most of the things you need to reach out and get the accelerator effect as well. You cannot invent something that has been already invented multiple times before. Yeah, fully agree. Omri, how do you experience from maybe the other side of the equation?
We're all on the same side here, but that was a joke. But we think that digital is, we're sure that digital is not going away, right? And as a result of that, becomes more and more as a core capability. The world is changing, and the response, the work, that the relationships that we have with patients, these are changing as well. I think that the not built here mentality that used to be in the pharma domain, I think it's changing. It becomes clear more and more that we need various capabilities and to bring folks from all across to really solve the problems that we have. the therapeutic knowledge that we gain when we work with folks such as Scott and others, we learn a lot every day. And I think that we're able to bring more to the table. I think that there were one more piece of your question, which is what capabilities are required. And I'll talk a bit more about technology. So I think that first and foremost, solutions that are going to be islands in a vacuum and are not going to connect to different constituents, this is not going to work in the future. So integration is key. Second thing that is key is the data flow, and how the data that and the knowledge and the insights that we're getting are being distributed. It also emphasizes how important it is to keep all the privacy regulations and cybersecurity and so on and so forth. And finally, I think that solutions have to be personalized because no two patients are alike. And as a result of that, no two patient journeys are the same. Over time, when folks, typically consultants, worked with Pharma to compile the patient journey, it was a very linear view of patient get prescribed. Most of them are converting. Scott just said 60%, which is not enough. But many patients, they have all sorts of challenges. And for one patient, it would be about financial challenges. For the other one, it's the fear of injection and what is biologic treatment and what is it going to do for me. And I'm taking all these other medications, and no two patients are alike. So the ability to personalize and change that process for different patients, I think, is going to be key. And finally, validation. We're working for healthcare companies. And the fact, you guys get your medications through a very rigorous process to approve them. And we have to have solutions in place that go through a very high level of validation as well. And that they work both from the patient side, right? We've seen so many solutions that pass through all the clinical validation, but then no one ever used them because they weren't friendly for users, for patients, and then also from the clinical side. So that's, personalization, the integration of the data and validation. I think these are the core pieces of what the future is going to look like in terms of digital.
And Omni, I'd like to just jump, if you don't mind, I just wanted to jump on to that notion, because I totally agree. I mean, this concept of what we're calling the portable health ecosystem, it's really, it's very much with the end user, the patient, the customer at the center of where, when, and how they want to engage in their healthcare, whether it's in the smart home of the future, which isn't that far off, it's already happening, the smart car, whether they're in smart cities, in the office. It's this location independent connected ecosystem where that data is flowing. It isn't going into different islands of data repositories. It's all interconnected. And as a result of that, there's an expectation that that information is going to be used specifically to benefit me as an individual, and it's going to be correct, it's going to be safe, and that's how I, as a patient, want to engage in the healthcare system. The paradigm shifts from the traditional going into the clinic setting and having the doctor advise on what you're supposed to do versus the patient really driving, in the driver's seat now, and the rest of this connected healthcare ecosystem needing to, to address the individualized needs of the customer.
Yeah, there are a couple of trends that are really coming together, I think, to drive that. You've got, a customer focus on a more consumerized healthcare system of the future. COVID's accelerated that because suddenly, patients weren't as willing as before to come and sit in the waiting room. You also have more epidemiological studies that are starting to look at determinants of healthcare that don't match your traditional idea of clinical, cause and effect. And that really our healthcare is impacted by so many things around us in our society, and so there is this need for a more holistic view of healthcare and solutions that can address those needs.
I agree with what you said. I think you covered all the things that I will also need to add, which brings me very nicely to my next question. I mean, it becomes undoubted based on what you all said that there has been a big impact because of the new solutions and the new ways of interaction on the experience, on the pathways. I would like to push this, let's say, one level further, and I'm very curious to hear your opinions based on the findings your individual organizations are doing. How do you assess the possibility that digital health solutions will impact or even drive medication efficacy? Have you seen any of that already manifesting itself? Can we go that far in our claims, or we still need to let more time go by before we can see this type of impact? So these type of interventions in new ways and new paradigms, even driving medication efficacy to new levels.
I mean, I think the promise is there, in light of, again, digital with the use of sensor wearable technologies, the apps that we have out there that are in the diabetes space with the artificial pancreas idea and the BGMs and the blood glucose monitors and the continuous glucose monitors connected to the medication. That's enabling real-time collection of key biomarkers for the disease state and management of the disease state, and that that is the more information that we're able to capture, the more information each stakeholder is able to use for their own decision making, and hopefully the idea is that you have a better understanding of, in the case of diabetes, how the medication is working in your body at that point in time based on whatever else is happening with your activity levels, what you're eating, and stress levels, sleep, all those types of things. And that can enable, again, better decision making around how you're going to treat and use your medication. And that information also can be shared with the healthcare professional or your caretaker or whomever. So I think we're seeing a lot of promise there in the diabetes space. And I think the idea is that we want to, regardless of the disease state, how can we make the medications, the delivery devices smart, intelligent, to capture that information, that real-time data for that informed decision making that could drive greater utilization optimization that drives the efficacy.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, I see a lot of potential in everything that you mentioned, Amy. It takes a long time in our industry. Product development takes years or a decade or more sometimes, and so software and digital space moves so much faster. It's just sort of two very different dynamics, and it does sort of create some challenges when you try to productize something that moves very quickly in a more traditional sense. In my past experience, in a clinical trial protocol, for example, you can maybe try some things that are under a certain amount of oversight and do things maybe faster. Doesn't feel fast to those of us who've been in that industry. But even on the other end of the sort of the therapeutic life cycle in patient support programs where really you're just trying to provide tools and technology to help patients succeed in their journey, and in many cases it's what becomes a digital health app is Uber, which 5 years ago I never would have thought would have fallen in the healthcare category, but actually helps address a real problem. I've seen patient mobile apps used for a number of really strong use cases, patient journaling, for example, so patients can see the actual effect that their medication is having on them statistically. If it's something that's happening over many months, it may not be obvious to the person, what's happening or a before and after effect, but the ability to have that shared decision making with their physician can be enabled by data and by mobile apps. And of course, something I always hear in healthcare is, that the drug doesn't work in 100% of patients who don't take it. And so the ability to help people stay, compliant and adherent with what they're prescribed is really important, and maybe not something that's factored into the clinical trial or therapeutic development process, but it's an important part of patients' real world experience.
And I think too that it's a great opportunity to think about, again, the patient being at the center of the unmet need, because in the diabetes space, we've seen a lot of really cool innovation by frustrated patients. That's how Bigfoot and One Drop got started. They got tired of waiting for the pharma companies or the healthcare companies to come up with solutions that worked for them in a real world type of way. I'm a patient. I don't live according to your clinical rules. I live my life because I'm a mom with 3 kids and I work 2 jobs. So but by seeing some of these organic patient-centric innovations, it's enabling people to take better care of themselves because they are better understanding how the medication, their lifestyle, whatever, is working for them and creating a system through technology to support that.
Amy,
any last thoughts for you?
Just to connect to what Amy said. 8 years ago, when my father accidentally overdosed on his insulin, we said that exactly. We said, how come his pharma company, his payer, his provider, his pharmacy, none of them provided him with any solution that can help him manage himself and understand the journey and so on and so forth. And that's when that is how we started MediSafe. So I second that. Patients will make their choices. They're going to move forward, and hopefully the industry can follow up with them with their pace. But just to touch on efficacy, Scott, you touched Uber, right? So transportation for a patient that needs to receive an injection is key. If they won't get to the injection center or the infusion center, they would just fall off the drug, and efficacy is going to be 0. So understanding the patient journey, making sure that patients also understand the processes and what are the tools that they have is critical in that. And when we just started MediSafe, our first investor, when we talked about efficacy, he pitched me and he said, if you remind me, will I not be reminded? So, even the most simple tool, which is managing the consumption of that medication, is also important because clearly we know that if patients are not taking their drugs, efficacy is going to be 0 as well. So I think that we're getting there to the point that pharma is understanding that digital should be a part of the offering.
Thanks, Omni. I'm looking at the watch. Let's do one more question so we can leave still some time for the Q&A. And I think this discussion would not be complete if we don't have a question dedicated to data. So obviously, everything we're discussing here needs to be supported by data, right? In order to come together, any smart decision making, any smart personalization, it has to be fueled by data. And more data, either in terms of variety of data or more data in terms of quantity and richness, let's say, of data, is part of this game in order to be better and more accurate and more efficient. Here is my question. I think it's actually a tough question. How do you see, let's say, at least part of the journey, do you see your organizations being in terms of being able first to access their own data? I have seen this actually as a major challenge in most clients. Even accessing their own data in a high quality and consistent way is actually a big problem and challenge. But at the same time, if we're talking better personalization, having this 360 view of the patient, it's a matter of fact, you will need to access third-party data. So how do you see this big challenge, which at the same time is one of the biggest enablers in order to really bring to life what we're discussing here today? I'm very curious to your thoughts. I see them nodding in the head, so it was a difficult question.
Just a brief answer. I think the way our healthcare system is set up, the supply chain of healthcare puts pharmaceutical companies on one end and patients on the other, right? And there's so many steps in between that it is difficult. It's a really big challenge to know what the patient experience really is. And that's where it comes back to the patient support program, which is one of the few times that a pharma company directly interacts with customers. And so data, there's no way we can learn about customer preferences or provide a personalized experience and putting the patient at the center unless we're directly interacting with patients. And so that to me is one of the key places where a pharmaceutical manufacturer has the opportunity to interact directly with patients, with providers, and learn from that experience.
Excellent.
Yeah, I would say that's the reason the digital at the end of the day, it's really all about the data, the ability to capture this real-time, real-world data that we never had access to before, and making sure that I know data at my organization, it is of utmost importance that we protect and use the data, store it, manage it properly so that it's safe, and that it's not being used in a way that it should not be, or could get breached or something along those lines. And so, but then with a lot of the laws that are changing, whether it's in outside the U.S. or in the U.S. with California laws, GDPR, there are a lot of considerations around what we can collect, how we can collect it, how we can commingle it, and ensuring a patient's anonymity and that their information is secure and protected. So it's not an easy task. That's a big challenge for us, but we've got to figure out a way, and I think we all will, because the data is so valuable, and it's the only way that we can really get to the ability to deliver precision health interventions and the right solutions for the right people at the right time, and all the promise that digital brings to the table. But the data piece, I would say, there are many different ways you can start to address the challenges there, and I think we're all chipping away at it, but we do have to figure out a way that we can use it safely, and in a way that we're able to commingle the data sets from different channels in order to really get that true understanding of who the patients are as individuals. So again, that we can support that, the right precision interventions for them, because that's the expectation down the road. But we've got a lot of challenges there in the middle.
Really. Any parting thoughts?
Yeah, my friends here gave such a strategic set of answers that I want to take it one level below and give a couple of examples, right? So if you would have known that you have an asthma medication that needs to be taken at night, and you would find out that and for the drug to work in the lungs, you actually need to take it at night, and you would find out that 30% of your patients are taking it in the morning, and when you ask them why, 50% of them are just taking it with all the other medications in the morning, so they think that it's effective. But eventually, these patients that are taking the drug in the morning are using far more rescue inhaler. This is, I'm connecting back to your question, the question of efficacy. This is strongly influencing the efficacy of that drug. So that's how data can reveal these things. I will give you another example with an injectable drug that we work with that is injected every 2 weeks. Historically, providers would have told the patient, hey, inject it over the weekend. You're more relaxed. You're at your home settings. So that is easier for you to manage that. And then you would find out that actually patients who are injecting their drug on Tuesdays or Fridays have 10% higher adherence. And as a result of that, higher efficacy of the drug. So that's how, even without knowing who the patients are, these insights can drive better efficacy, eventually down the line, better value for everything, for everyone across the healthcare continuum.
Thanks for this great insight summary. Thank you also so much. I would like now to jump into some of the questions we received from the audience. I already can see a couple of great ones. First one, maybe it says, where do you see digital pharma fitting in with the new outcome-based risk-sharing models between pharma companies and health insurance and payers? I think that's a very relevant question. So it'd be great to hear your current state of play, let's say.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges with outcomes-based models is just having a consistent measurement, trusted, measure that can't be gamed. And so I think there is a role for digital to play, in how do you measure the outcome? What outcome measure are you looking for? And there are now outcome measures that are purely derived through devices or through some kind of a digital metric that could be used to help drive these kinds of models.
Yep, agree. And I think that is something that another area that we've really got to try to figure out as a pharma company, because that is how you're able to truly differentiate, to substantiate the differentiation of your product. We know clinical trials are very controlled settings that you get a certain outcome because by virtue of the way the trial is set up, the individuals are in a very sort of strict protocol, but that's just not the real world. And so that's what we are being asked to address by our payer customers, that, okay, I know this works in a controlled setting, but in the real world, you don't have those controls in place. How can you really prove that you're going to have this type of an outcome? And so by leveraging the technology and the digital to monitor and manage that, and to Scott's point, having some sort of a standard to set that against, we can start to really prove that value. But I think we're still in the early stages of that, but we are starting to see some organizations like Omada and who are delivering these very specific biomarker validations that are being reimbursed.
Thanks a lot for that. I go to maybe the next one. It says, since patients listen more to other patients than to their HCPs, how are you engaging social media platforms for disease-specific communities where people can get support, post information, get professionals' inputs, or behavioral interventions? And they're citing KOPA for psoriasis, for example. Is this happening at all, or it's still something for the future?
So, just brief answer is we're working with a lot of patient advocacy groups, and so rather than becoming sort of stepping into that space ourselves, I think we're contributing or supporting, sometimes financially supporting some of these groups that are these community organizations.
I would say the same thing, especially for our sort of rare disease specialty disease states, as well as overall social listening to understand the broader, some of the broader disease areas, and understanding what the concerns are through those types of channels. I would also add, it isn't necessarily a social forum, but it is an open dialogue forum. At Novo Nordisk, we have a patient support program called Cornerstones for Care for People with Diabetes, and we have a virtual concierge with a sophisticated sort of a bot functionality there that enables people to ask open field questions. And by using that channel, we've been able to really understand the typical language around how people talk about the disease state, and how can we position how can we better contextualize the information that we're trying to share out in a way that they're going to better understand and consume on their end. So from an understanding natural use of language, we've learned a lot in that sort of bot technology forum.
I want to go back to thinking about the patient journey, right? And communities are a part of the patient journey. So when we think about the patient journey as a whole, that connectivity to other patients should be a part of that. I believe it should be a part in a controlled setting, right? Healthcare companies, we're under regulation. We need to make sure that we're doing things right. And I think that there are companies that are doing that and doing that very, very well. And again, we need to think about how we integrate all of our efforts for patients, for them to have a full experience.
Thanks. Okay. Now comes another, in my personal opinion, tough question, because I think this is one of the holy grails in not only life science, but also in life sciences. The question is, can you share some tactics to increase number of enrolled and actually really active patients? I think this is one of the toughest things to achieve, to really get people engaged in a sustainable and continued way. So people are asking, the audience is asking us some tactics you are deploying in order to achieve that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
Yes, Amy. The question is, what are some of the employed tactics in order to ensure patients do engage with digital services and patient support programs?
So it's, the important thing is, at the heart of it, we strive to want to be where the person is. The objective is not to just push information out to them. We want to be where they are when they want us to be with them. And so we want to leverage the different channels of preferred access, whether it is a laptop, a mobile phone, a wearable, an app. If they want live coaching support or a live person to talk to, we're trying to embed ourselves in the channels of preferred access, and then the person can choose how they want to engage with us. Looking to explore opportunities with voice technology, with Alexa and Siri, and again using that sort of smart home environment to be where the patient is and address their needs, again on demand when they want that help. So it's continuing to leverage all of these channels, but understanding what are the new evolving ones, where are people finding the most benefit, where are they getting frustrated, and then adapting our positioning and our strategy to make sure that we are addressing the problem and not being a part of the problem or creating a problem.
Yeah, I think a big shift has been from multi-channel to omni-channel, meaning instead of just providing a variety of different methods or ways to raise awareness, and which is important, and they should be placed at the barriers and the obstacles. So when a patient runs into a problem, that there's a solution there, where they are. But really a more omnidirectional approach where there's an engagement, and they can use a variety of different channels for interacting, or even different paths through their journey.
I want to offer a slightly different answer here. I think that the future is not the digital, we need to drive adoption. It's a part of the drug in the future. It should be a part of the offering that we have. And when we talk today with our partners, we say, how do you integrate the MediSafe companion into every place that you have interaction with patient, whether it would be the PSP, earlier on, the specialty pharmacies, one step before that, when the patient meets the doctor and the doctor recommends treatment. Further down the line, when they get their starter's kit of the drug, can MediSafe be a part of that? Because it should be a part of the therapeutics. If we show better efficacy, if we show better outcomes, it should be a part of the messaging, and it should be integrated. So that's our approach today when we talk with our partners.
It's the right approach. I think normally this will happen inevitably. The better we become at this, and the more omni and more seamless we connect to those. I agree with you. Maybe if we have time for one last question, I'm very curious to hear your inputs. The question from our audience is, are there therapeutic areas or chronic diseases that are more activated in terms of the patient's engagement than the average? And do you see a correlation of having more advanced patient support programs in the therapeutic areas where you see greater activation of the patients?
I say, yeah. Again, like, digital is not going to go away. I think, especially as you see younger generations grow and get accustomed to using these different modalities and functions. So as time goes on, I think we're only going to see an increase in desire and demand for these diverse ways to engage. And again, being very, very much on demand of the patient first versus the other way around. And, I think we're also, chronic health management is something that is, definitely going to benefit from some type of ongoing sort of support monitoring. But it always comes down to the individual, what their preferences are, how much they want to engage and how they want to engage. So it's just going to depend on the individual, I think, at the end of the day. But I think it's fair to say this technology, this innovation, this digital push, it's so embedded in every other part of our life, from retail to travel to financial services, that healthcare is a very tough nut to crack because of the privacy challenges and the data challenges. But it's poised to be very much embedded in this digital space too, and it's just not going to go away. So we'll just continue to see an uptick in it.
I'll be fast. I second everything Amy said.
Good answer.
It's not going away. There are a lot of differences between patients and patient groups on different on therapies. So it's a hard one to give a single answer to, but.
Super. Thank you all very much. Really super insights. Thank you so much for sharing this knowledge with the rest of us. And I think now you are more than welcome to stay, and there will be more interactive sessions, magician sessions. So everyone wants to say there will be more to follow. Thank you all very much.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex, and to all of our panelists. If you'd like to continue the conversation, please join us on Twitter. And now, please welcome mentalist Mark Tolan.
Hello there, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm coming to you live today from Chicago. Thanks so much for staying with us to do some fun interactive entertainment here at the end. It looks like, we've got some different people logging on now. I want to see who I'm working with. So we got Nancy, and then who is our other participant here today? You guys can both unmute so I can hear you and everyone can hear you. Who am I dealing with?
I'm Lisa.
Oh, Lisa and Nancy. Hi, you guys.
Hi.
Nice to see you both. So look, everyone who's watching, and Nancy and Lisa, real quick, a bit of housekeeping is this bottle back here on the table. You may have noticed it. There's a little slip down in there, a little piece of paper. It's a message in a bottle. We will get back to that in just a little bit, but for now, I'm just going to leave it back here. So everyone who's watching, keep an eye on the bottle. We will get back to it in just a little bit. For now, a little quick warm up. I have a pack of cards here, not a magician, mind reader. So simple psychological test with these cards. I took one card out of the deck, Nancy and Lisa. I turned it over. I put it back in facing the other way. So my goal now is to see if I can get one, if not both of you, to think of this card. Okay? Okay. So would you both just get a card in mind from the deck? Anyone right now, just think of a card, yes?
Yep.
Okay, good. Now, obviously, the first one you go for is probably not going to be it because most people tend to go for the same card. So change your mind. Change to a different card. And maybe change one more time. Let me see how we're doing. Lisa, change one more time after that one. Okay, so this is very random now. I like it, and we're doing this in the moment. And Nancy, so let me get a good look at both of you. Okay. In fact, Lisa, I think I'm going to go with your card. I believe that you are thinking of the card I have in mind. So Nancy, I'll try something with you in a second, but Lisa, I'll go with you on this. Would you tell everyone, Lisa, what was the card you thought of?
The 6 of spades. 6
of spades. Yeah. And out of curiosity, Nancy, you didn't end on the 6 of spades, did you?
I did not.
Okay, so what would your card have been?
Ace of spades.
Ace of spades, so random choice there, but spades is interesting, a little correlation there, but 6 of spades is the one we went with, which is fascinating. So I'll be very fair here, and I will show you in the middle of the deck, there is one card facing the other way, in the very, very middle, and you will see that is Lisa's card.
That is cool.
Not too bad, but that worked out nicely to get us going here. So obviously, Lisa, we're on the same wavelength. So Nancy, we're just about there because you had spade and we were working on it. So we have someone else joining us as well, Alexandros, I think. So Nancy, I'll try some with you to see if we can get on the same wavelength as well. And in order to do this, I need to show you what's on my tabletop here. So I'll switch camera angles, but make sure you can still see me up in the corner, right up here. That way you can keep an eye on the bottle behind me as well as see these symbols here on the table, yeah? Okay, yep. Very good. So you may recognize these as pop culture famous from Ghostbusters, right? Bill Murray holds them up and then does the scene in the beginning of the movie there. But simple shapes, we got a circle, a plus, this is wavy lines or bacon, Nancy, whatever you want it to be. This is a square, this is a star. I've got a matching set of these 5 here. So the goal now is just to see if we can get on the same wavelength. I'm going to try to mentally transmit these shapes to you one at a time, sight unseen. So I won't show them to you. I'll just think of them, try to transmit it to you. We'll see if maybe you can pick up on what I'm sending and match 5 for 5.
All right.
Okay. So let's start with this one. Imagine like, I don't know, like the thoughts in your mind are kind of like a camera that's out of focus, right? So it's kind of blurry right now, right? So you're not really focused on anything until I click my fingers. And then one of those shapes comes into focus. Which one would it be?
Bacon.
Bacon, excellent. Okay, so we'll leave it there. Let's do this one next. So again, wipe away the bacon, the wavy lines, wait until another one comes into view. Which one would it be this time?
Plus.
Plus, okay, I like it. Very good. And the next one, I think you're getting the hang of this now.
Star.
Star, very good. This one now?
The square.
The square, and that leaves the circle. Now, Nancy, obviously you didn't have much of a choice for the circle there at the end. I always feel bad on the last one. It's the leftover process of elimination. So in an effort for complete transparency, to be as fair as possible, would you like to trade any of these, or are you happy with where they ended up?
I'm happy with where they are.
Okay. I just want to make sure this is your choice and you feel fair about this. Now, Nancy, obviously, if you were just guessing, this would be very impossible to achieve, right? Because there's no method to it. But I don't think you're guessing. I think we're on the same wavelength. I had a good feeling about you a moment ago. We were almost there with the card. I believe that on a deeper level, maybe not consciously, but on a deeper level, maybe you were aware of what these shapes were, which means this is the circle.
Of course.
Right here. And that's the plus. That's the bacon. That is the square right there. And that is the star. That is all 5 for 5. A perfect match.
Superb.
Thank you so much. So look, Alexandros, am I saying that right? Alexandros?
Alex is fine as well. Yeah, you're saying it
Alex,
right.
Alex, okay. Alex is here with us as well. I'm just trying to get a read. Since I didn't work with you before though, Alex, you can stay on and help us, but I'll tell you what, Alex, I'll do one thing for you. I didn't know how many people were going to be on with us today, on screen that is. So I just wanted to make sure I was covering my bases here. So Alex, tell you what, would you imagine maybe a significant moment in your life, some kind of time that jumps out at you? And what I want specifically is hours and minutes, right? So for me, I think my wedding was at 7:30, so that'd be a good one. I was born at 8:45 in the morning. And I'd like you to just find a time that makes sense to you from some moment in your life, hours and minutes. Don't tell me what it is, but can you think of one?
I have it already.
Okay, very good. So here's the deal. I want you to make it a little more specific. So in my example, 8:45, I might go for 8:47, 8:44, right? I might add a minute, take a minute off, something like that, just to make it specific in this moment. So you know this is random and you're really doing this right now. You got one. Okay. So look, I'm in Central Time, so it's just past 1 over here. I'm going to try to work this out. I will try to work out what I think your time is. So imagine it's kind of at the front of your mind, like you were going to send it to me, right? So you're thinking of it here and you're projecting it mentally. I know it's strange to do over the internet. So you're here and you're projecting. Good. Okay. Okay. I'm going to change my watch here. I will change the time. Okay. I love doing this, but we'll see. Okay.
If I give you the year.
Alex, no, please. I'm committed here. Would you tell everyone though, what time did you have in mind?
Should I say now?
Yeah.
2:21 in the afternoon.
Oh, in the afternoon. So 2:21. That's fascinating. So were you thinking of a special memory? Was it a big significant thing, or did you just kind of settle on a random time?
It was an event.
It was an event. Okay. I love doing this because it's a little more personal. So this is what I went with. Hopefully you can see that.
Whoa.
That's 2:21 on the dot today. Fantastic. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it. So we've got one last few minutes here together to try one last thing with you all before we send it back to the health team. By the way, I did an event back in June with health, which was I really appreciate it, and they had me back today. So I don't know if any attendees have seen me before, but thanks to the health team for having me back and letting me come and blow your minds virtually. Lisa, do you have your phone nearby?
Yes.
Oh, okay, look, Lisa is not Gen Z. It wasn't just on the desk there. You had to walk a few steps to get, I like that because I've been doing a lot of virtual college shows and they're like right here. So, yeah, no, but you're okay. You're not panicking if it was across the room. That's
I
the
can get
difference.
text on my computer, so we're okay.
Right. That's the difference. You're going to be okay for 2 minutes without it. So, Lisa, pull up the internet. Go to Google for me. And we'll show everyone the scope of this. This is the hardest thing I know how to do. I'll grab my phone here and I'll grab my calculator here just so we can do this. Go to Google and search for this. Search for how many articles are there on Wikipedia. Right? Obviously, it's a lot, but once you're there, if you wouldn't mind, would you just hold that up so everyone can see what you're dealing with? Perfect. And actually, yeah, click on that top result there so we can get some numbers there. I'm going to do some quick math here to show everyone. Great. So this has a big number at the top. Perfect. Which is number of articles on Wikipedia and a smaller number down there. So it's 1317, I think. Is that right? That smaller number times. And then show me that big number one more time. The big number, 6178. 473. So this is the average number of words per article times total number of articles, which means there are approximately 8.1 billion words on Wikipedia, at least. That's a lot of words. So scroll down there, click visit Wikipedia. So that'll load for us. And then once you're there, would you just show everyone that it's loaded and we're good to go? Perfect. Okay. So tap the magnifying glass in the corner. And now I'm going to have you search for something from your life. It could be a famous person. It could be a location, a landmark, a city, whatever. It could be a hobby, a food, an animal, an interest, anything like that. As long as there's an article about it on Wikipedia, search for that now, pull it up. Don't show me. Just let me know when you have something. Do you have one?
Yes.
Okay, so hold the phone in front of you like this. Don't look down, just look at me and start to scroll it, right? So yeah, very good. So you're looking at me, We're gonna randomize this. Whenever you're ready, stop scrolling and then look down into the middle of the article and find a long random word to think of, right? So just look down in the article, find some random long word, 10 letters, 12 letters, something pretty long and random. Doesn't have to be related. In fact, don't make it related to what you search for. Once you have a word in mind, just put the phone like this, Lisa, so you are committed and locked in. And it doesn't have to be spectacular, just something random. Yeah, just put the phone against you like that so you're committed. That way you don't accidentally show me. Okay, very good. So this is a random longish word, yes?
Relatively, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So this is one word out of 8 billion. I'm going to try to guess it. So imagine sending me this word like you were going to say it over and over and over and like it was written in front of you. And be honest with me, this random word, it's not like connected to what you search for or anything, right? This is random. Okay. That means even if I knew what you were going to go for, it's a long word, even if I knew what you were going to search for, there's no way I could know this random word, right?
Correct.
We'll go with something like this. Actually, can you think of the first letter? Could you think of the first letter for me? Like it was a big balloon, right? Floating in front of you. So you see this big balloon. Is that an R?
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Okay, so I'll change this. Just imagine saying the whole word over. Good. Okay, this is good. Nail the letter. So obviously we're on the right wavelength from earlier still, and this makes a lot of sense to me. I'm going to go with this. One word out of what? Over 8 billion words we decided. This is a lot of words to choose from, but you settled on one. What was that word?
Recommended.
So something like that.
What? That's ridiculous.
Fantastic. Lisa, that was amazing. Don't tell me what you search for, but am I right in saying it was something from your own life? Like it's related to you in some way, even if it's loose? Okay. This bottle has been back here the whole time. Everyone's always keeping an eye on the bottle. So I want to show you yet again that there is a little folded up slip of paper in there. It's a message in the bottle. I need to get it out now. I just need these kind of weird tongs. So hopefully everyone can see this. This is actually the hardest part because I don't want to take it off camera. So I just have to do this very slow. Oh, I might mangle it. See, this is tricky because I don't want to lose it on camera. There we go. Perfect. So you can see it's kind of twisting, but this is my message in a bottle. So obviously, Lisa, every morning when I have a show, I sit down, I write down a few ideas on a piece of paper, just like this one, pop it down inside the bottle. So about 2 hours ago now, I wrote this down, put it down in the bottle. It's back there the whole time, right? So Nancy, Alex, Lisa, it's always back there. Everyone's always keeping an eye on it. So if you think back to the beginning, Lisa, you nailed the card, right? The 6 of spades. But I asked Nancy what card she had in mind just to verify that was the other card. And Nancy, what was that other card? One more time.
Ace of spades.
Ace of spades. So that's why I went with this. I said the other card will be the ace of spades. That was the other choice that I had in mind. And then there's one piece of information that no one knows. And Lisa, that is whatever you thought of from your own life, whatever that is. So would you tell us all for the first moment, what was it?
I go Wikipedia or searched for Los Altos Hills.
Sorry, Los Altos Hills.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's what kind of makes sense. I said, and the search will be.
What? What? That's ridiculous.
Bravo.
Whoa. We
Thank
need
you
to be
guys
friends,
so,
'cause that is
so
a
much.
great party trick.
Oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Well, thank you.
Not
Thank you so
party
much for
trick,
being on
show
screen.
trick, show thing.
No, it's great. Thank you so much, Alice, Nancy, and Lisa for helping out. Thanks again to Health for having me. I'll send it back to the Health team now to close this out.
Oh,
Thank you, Mark.
fun.
Of course.
Thank you, Mark, and to everyone for joining us today. Have a great rest of your week.